Okay guys, so this is going to be the matchup against Mono Blue Control. I finally, after many attempts, was able to find someone who had the Mono Blue deck and get them to sit at the table. Now, this is a bit of a tough matchup for just about any deck, really, except for Mirrors or Is It Control. But we definitely are not sitting well pre-sideboard. You have things like Nausea that could be useful, but it really depends on which version of Mono Blue your opponent is playing. If your opponent is playing the version with Cloud of Fairies, then Nausea is a good thing to have. You can use it to kill Delvers if they tap out multiple Cloud of Fairies as well. But this opponent actually was not playing that version. He was playing the other version. It's more of a classic style. It has the Spire Golems or whatever the basically Island Affinity Golems are. So I got him to sit, and I had a pretty decent hand. The it's any hand is going to be kind of not good against Mono Blue Delver, but um, this was a decent just hand overall. He gets the probes, and those are not what I want to see. The last thing you want is for your opponent who is playing counter control to know what you have in your hand. What I like to do is keep track of at what point they used that and what spells I have drawn since. Just keep a mental note of anything you draw afterwards so you know what they know. Basically, you know that they are aware that you have everything to the island in hand. So I have some options. I play the Nausea to try and kill the Delver. You'll see a couple misplays in this that I will point out. Again, I do this often, and I'm not sure why, but what I should have done to start this turn was drop the island, because then I could have cast the Nausea, and he would not be able to Force Spike. I would have the 1 mana open and available to pay that 1, so the Delver would die. But I make the mistake, I play the Force Spike, so he plays the Force Spikes, so I drop the Bog. There's no point in really having the untapped land. He already knows the Bog is there. The Bog isn't really relevant in this matchup. There isn't a lot of flashback. The occasional deep analysis is what you'll come into, but really not an important card. As always, you want to leave your revealed cards open so you can just be aware of what they have and what's coming your way. Now, I'm not too worried about the 3/2 Delver. I do have answers. I have a Snuff Out that I cannot play uncasted right now, but I also have Echoing Decay, which will kill it. You do have to be aware of, at all times, how many cards they have in hand and how many lands they have untapped. Here comes another probe, so now I know that he has seen the Fume Spitter that I drew on last turn and did not play. And there goes the Ponder, so we'll click that away. And he's going to leave the mana untapped. I really do. I think I have a better matchup in this game. A better matchup to this game after sideboarding. Game 1 is not great. Game 2, you're able to bring in some counter spells to kind of work with the stack a little bit. You gain the information as to what type of mono blue deck they are playing, whether it be the Spire Golem versions or some of the newer ones. Sometimes you can come into a big mana blue that does run Cloud Posts for things like Capsize. But we play the Echoing Decay, and he returns it actually using Vapor Snag on his own creature. But we're going to put the Fume Spitter out. Oh, nope, sorry, you could have put the Fume Spitter out. Since he's pretty much tapped out, I decided it was a good time to play the Skyfisher, and I'll just bring a land back. It's best to bring back the basic lands because they will not come into play tapped, so I'm not going to lose a mana drop. If I had returned the Bog, when I put that back into play, I would lose a mana drop, and I would only have 3 available mana. And I really want to have 4 so I can cast Snuff Out if necessary. Now here, whenever you see mono blue and they drop a morph creature, you know it's going to be Fathom Seers. Every single time. There's no question about it. There's no other creature worth playing. So he replays the land, and I thought he has a Delver he's going to redrop, but he decides not to. I am keeping in mind at all times that he still has that Delver in hand. I can kill this bear. The thing with the bear is it's a big body, but it dies to target. So I am able to kill that with the Fume Spitter. But he's tapped out, so the first things I want to be able to do is throw out the Missionary and gain that life. Then I can worry about the Fume Spitter and killing the Phantasmal Bear. Bear's not a huge issue. You can chump block it through oracles and stuff, but get rid of it when you can. It really sucks that you have to waste a targeted spell on it. So, I mean, you would have to use something that did not have any other benefit, something that could be countered by the fact that the bear is dead. But it basically acts as a standard bear in the mono blue deck. So here comes the Delver, and he casts a little more draw, but he only has one land untapped, so you don't expect to see counter spells. I did decide to play the Snuff out for 4 life because I was over 20, and I wanted to have mana available not only to use Momentary Blink, but to keep him off of Force Spike for that 1 mana. And I can swing quite a few times with the Skyfisher here. Now he's finally getting the mana draw. They're pretty much good with a low amount of mana, but once they hit 4, they're really in stride, and you should watch out. Here's the Spire Golems, first one going to come down. These are trouble in the first game. The best kill spell, the heaviest kill spell at least, in your deck is going to be that Echoing Decay, and it cannot target Spire Golem. It's another problem with the Phantasmal Bear. If you use Echoing Decay to try and kill multiple bears, it's only going to trigger this effect, kill this bear, and counter your spell. So it's something to keep in mind, that you definitely want to be able to sideboard those Echoing Decays out. They are good, I will leave 1 or 2 in deck. Instead of keeping the 1 of Diabolic Edict, maybe bring in those extra 2 and keep the 1 of Echoing Decay. It's good to kill multiple Delvers, but other than that, it's not really going to be helpful in this matchup. He is not running the Muldrifters, he is not running the multiple Cloud of Fairies, which I want to say this is the weaker version of the 2, but that's really a hard sell because these Spire Golems really are tough to deal with at 4 toughness. The Cloud of Fairies ones is stronger as far as always having counter spells available, because he can play the fairies, have the untapped spells. He'll have spell stutter sprites. So I don't always trip over that one, but he does have the mana available for those extra counter spells. So here comes the Delver, and we're starting to get to a point where I'm really on the wrong end of all this creature control. I can cast a Nausea here to try and kill the Delver. I will be sacrificing my Missionary and being unable to blink it to save it. He does have 2 mana open and 4 cards in hand, so that just screams counterspell to me. Just something to be aware of. I can no longer attack now. He's got the Golem in play, and I'm just going to have to sit back and not be able to attack through it. We're kind of at a stalemate here. He could be attacking with these creatures, and he probably should have. The Bear and the Seer to get through my Missionary. But he is a little more cautious, I guess the word is. So he doesn't attack. The Spire Golem and the Skyfisher are just going to cancel each other out. And right now I'm kind of waiting for an opportunity. Now there's 2 Delvers on the board. Nausea is a better play. Echoing Decay is what I'm going to do. Targeting the Delvers, he has 3 mana open, so my idea is I will use the Decay and, draw out that counterspell, assuming he has it, which he didn't. And then I would have been able to play Nausea on my next turn. So I know he's got 4 cards in hand, and either no counterspell or no desire to use counterspell. I think if he had one, the play there would have been to save the Delvers. But, I only have 2 cards in hand. He can't be feared too much, whatever I have going on. Now here's the other reason this deck may not be the weaker of the 2. The Stitch Drake is kind of a new card to the deck. It's a 3/4 flyer for 3. That's pretty fantastic, and it comes out at an easy cost of 1 and 2 blue, and removing a creature from your graveyard. I guess that's one benefit to having the Bogs in this deck, is it does slow him down from getting those Drakes out, but in the end it's still going to come out eventually. So I try to get the Oracle in play, assuming again he has no counter spells based off of what he's done before. Now here I make kind of an interesting move. I draw out the Serrated Arrows instead of the Prohibit. I was kind of hoping that I could play it, target the bear, and kill that. Just to try and thin out his board a little bit, and then use it to make the Drake something easier to deal with than the Spire Golems. These are creatures that are not always big in toughness, but because they have big in attack, but because they have that big toughness, it's hard to get through on the attack, especially on a deck like mine that is flying based. But he does have the Force Spike. I guess I could have waited till the following turn to try and cast that. I was still, like I said, going on the assumption that he did not have a counterspell available to him. So another important thing here is the card draw. Mono Blue is always trying to draw cards, and there's not much we can do about it. I got a second blink here, which is great. That'll keep me alive on the missionaries. I do use one now. I want to get some card draw going. I really need something here. I'm not looking too good. I get the 2 lands. What I really need is some kind of targeted creature kill. I really am not getting it though. Play the Terramorphic just so I can, siphon out lands and decrease my chance of drawing those later on. Now he's gonna keep attacking through here. He's right to leave the Spire Golem at home and untapped because it is just going to cancel out the Skyfisher and no damage is going to be done and leave him tapped so that if I did play another flyer, I would be able to swing through for 2. I also like to kind of hold on to lands at some points in these games to be able to kind of bluff. If you see there, I did flash back the blink. I could have cast this one for cheaper, but decided it was better to keep that hidden, that I had a second blink. It drew some cards, and I was also able to get off a deep analysis. So now I have an edict. I can get rid of a creature, but if I cast it, and I will later on, he's just going to get rid of the Seer. It's pretty much useless on the board. So I draw a Muldrifter, and that's great, and I want to get that into play unevoked so that I can block his flyers. But he does have the Excludes main deck, and I am going to attempt to get the Oracle, and still I'm just digging for any kind of answer here. And there was another misplay. I clicked the land draw instead of the Prohibit. Prohibit's still not a great card to get, but I really don't need lands at this point in time. Kicked myself after that one, but he's got another Spire Golem. That's going to be trouble. I have now lost my flyer. But I guess at least I'm going to thin another land out of my deck. For what that's worth, it really should have taken the Prohibit. I wouldn't have been able to play it currently, but I'm sitting across from quite a wall of creatures here that I cannot do anything about. I have a Mystical Teachings that I could use, but I know that I'm really kind of screwed at this point. My kills in deck are all Echoing Decay. The only reason Mystical Teachings would be useful is if I topped into one Echoing Decay and I could find a second, and hope it, neither one gets countered or the tutor doesn't get countered. I do decide to blink the Missionary to try and get some life gain going. I know if he swings next turn with all 3 flyers, I'm dead. So I needed to get that, and I have to flash it back as well in order to keep myself in this game. I played the Edict, and like you see there, all he lost was the Seer, so it was not really a big deal to him. Gaining life. Yeah, there's very little. The tutors here, teachings would be great, but mostly after sideboarding. Currently, I have no real good kill spells for it. Now, I could have played again the Nausea to kill that. I would have just ended up losing my Missionary, the Delver that is, but it's almost beneficial to me since this game is pretty much over to just let it, stay in play and see what he can draw into. Get some idea what's in his hand. He's going to be able to swing with everything, and I can chump block some, but this game is just over. I play out pretty much every game anyways. I tutor out the Grim Harvest so that I can bring back the Missionary, and I will survive one more turn if he does not morph the Delver, which he does not. I tried to Nausea the Delver so that, it wouldn't morph, but he did have the Force Spike, and I was unable to provide the mana to stop that. So he's gonna do that, throw down on the Spire Golem, and I gain another land card. So this game is just about over here. It's gonna be able to transform that, swing with all his flyers, and it's just GG. Okay, so sideboarding options. We're obviously going to want to bring in the negates, bring in the dispels. We really kind of need the more direct targeted kills. So Doomblades are going to come in. We're going to take out some of the Echoing Decays. Prismatic Strands definitely can come in. It's all monocolored, so it's going to help us out even if he counterspells it. we have a chance to flash it back, and it's still, eating up a counter. Crypt Rats is a good choice as well. It's a decent Wrath effect if you get in a situation like that one I did at the end of game 1. You can Wrath the board even though you're going to need 4 black mana to be able to truly clear it out. The Edicts you can consider bringing in as well. They may have a little more benefit to them than the Echoing Decays, but you're already bringing in a lot of cards, so I might just leave those in the sideboard. Take out the 2 Nauseas and, balance out the Decays, take out some of those for the Doomblades, and, hopefully that should improve the matchup. It's still a tough one, and honestly your best weapon in a mono-blue matchup is not just going to be luck, but it's also going to be your knowledge of the game, basically. The better you play, the better you understand the matchup, an understanding of how many cards your opponent has, how much open mana he has. There's a whole bunch of things that come into account. It's really a chess match, and you're going to win it based on your ability to anticipate your opponent's moves. So this was my opening hand in game 2, and it's not bad. I do get the Swamp. I have both Snuff Outs, which are great because they're some of my only direct kill spells. There's something to be said for keeping those in hand for the hard-to-kill creatures, those 4 toughness flyers. I do here, you'll see my opponent drops a turn 1 Delver, and I did decide that instead of possibly taking 3 damage on turn 2, I wanted to use Snuff Out and just clear it off the board. There's really no stronger play in mono blue than turn 1 Delver. I don't get a land for the Missionary, but I'm of course going to play the Basilica so that I can play Missionary next turn. I also have, you see, I had the Dispel in hand, so I do have the ability to draw out a counter and protect it later on. This time I learned from my mistake. I played the land first so that I could play my 2 casting cost creature and have the mana open for Force Spike, which is the only possible play my opponent can do right now. That's something I learned from game 1. I will say, played much better in game 2. He did Vapor Snag me there, but I'm mildly okay with that simply from the fact that it allows me to replay the Missionary and gain another 4 life if I'm smart about it. So here comes the play. I'm going to play Terramorphic, it's my only land, and this is where I think I made a really smart move here. Now what I'm going to do is use the Terramorphic to find an island. Now, my opponent's got only 2 lands, he missed a mana drop, and I'm seeing 6 cards in his hands, so the fact that he bounced this Missionary, I'm guessing it's going to be met with a counter spell. So what I'm going to do, after getting that blue mana, I'm going to pass the turn. I have the mana open to kill something if he plays something. There's really no need to drop the Missionary on this turn. I can wait until my following turn, when the island untaps, and see if I can't get this Missionary into play. So now I'm trying to play the Missionary. I have mana open if he tries to Force Spike. If he tries to counter it in any way, which he does here, he throws out Psychic Barrier. I have Dispel. I can play that 1 blue, and the Missionary will come into play. That's what I'm talking about when I said that you want to kind of anticipate your opponent's moves, be aware of what he has open, how many cards he has in hand. So, like I said, there was no need to play that Missionary on that turn. I can just as easily skip the turn, do nothing, and then be able to play the Missionary protected on my following turn. So now, again, playing the land first, so I have the actual stuff in hand. I'm going to swing with the Missionary and play during my second main phase. So if he does play another return to hand card, I can just replay the Missionary. I won't have to worry about not having mana to replay it. So this time I'm going to drop the Oracle, so I can hope to draw some cards, get some advantage. I'm sitting pretty well here. At the very least, it's drawing out the counter spells like it is at this turn. It's now turn 6. My opponent's just now getting his 3rd land. That's kind of good on my part. Here, I think I made another good play. He brings out a Morph card, so we know it is a Seer. So Echoing Decay is going to be useless. If you try to Echoing Decay on this Morph creature, it's going to just be flipped. and he will return the lands. So what I'm going to do, I'm sitting at 23 life, I'm going to actually pay 4 life to put Snuff out. I'm going to be able to kill this so I can attack clear on my next turn, and I'm putting him in a situation where he has to debate on whether or not he wants those 2 cards. Now, like I said, it's turn 6, he just got his 3rd land. If he flips this creature, he's going to have to return 2 islands to his hand in order to draw those cards. So he's going to be set back again, and by turn 7 he's only going to have 2 lands in play. You see, he did take that chance here. He did return the land so he could draw the cards, and it probably is the better move. I'm not terribly familiar with the exact play of mono blue, but I felt it was a strong play because now I've reduced him on turn 7 to only having 2 lands in play. Now we're reaching that point where I'm attacking through, I'm drawing lands, I've kind of hit a standstill in my deck. What I really need is some draw spells. Here comes the second land. My opponent's going to be stuck with it, but I did get an Oracle, so I'm able to try and search something out. Here he attempts to Piracy Charm the Missionary. Now, I have a couple ideas here. There's 1 land open. There's 6 cards in hand. I know he's not going to just throw away the Piracy Charm. He has to have some kind of counterspell. Even in chat, I didn't stretch the screen long enough to see it, but in chat he kind of dared me to blink it. Now, knowing that, and being so sure of the fact that he had a counterspell in hand, I still decided to blink the creature. I feel that I had to. Blink is not going to be wasted. It does blink 1 use of it, but I do have the mana to use it later on. I think I have to take the chance that he's bluffing, and that I can blink this and cancel his charm. Unfortunately, it is not the case. He did have the counterspell. I guess he brought in the dispels, I'm going to say, from the sideboard. But, you know, I had the opportunity there. I still feel that I had to make that blink play, if for no other reason than to eat up the counterspell. So now we're in another situation where I kind of misplayed. I tapped out the white mana. I really didn't have... Usually if you're playing an aggro deck, you want to make sure you have a black mana open so that you can kill something if you draw it. In this scenario, there's nothing to kill. What I should have done is have a white mana available. So that when I drew this missionary, I could have played it. He would have been completely tapped out, and I would have been able to get that missionary into play uncontested. Now I do get another chance to play that missionary with no problem. He did get a Stitched Drake into play, and that's going to be trouble, but you know, we'll keep this going as long as you can. So you get the missionary, I'd go up the life. I'm going to be able to take damage from the Drake for quite a while before it becomes a necessity to, to be at a point where my life is low enough that I'm in trouble. Now again, I have the blinking graveyard. I'm leaving the mana open just on the off chance that I get the opportunity or necessity to use it. Here I draw the Skyfisher, and I'm going to attempt to use it to return either the missionary or the Oracle. At the very least, it's drawing out counterspells. It's another thing, you're not going to hold that one in hand. You have to make the play just on the off chance that he doesn't have the counterspell and it's going to be successful. Then you can go crazy with the recursion on it. So out comes Delver, out comes Bear. Again, hitting land when I really don't want to. I think I should have attacked there. Though what would have happened, he probably would have blocked the Bear to the Oracle, and I would have ended up trading the Missionary. The only reason to attack there would have been to kill the Delver. You wouldn't have been able to blink to save the Missionary because you would have to let damage go through. It's been a long time since we've been able to, say when damage is on the stack, I cast. Damage no longer goes on the stack, and that's, I don't know, I think that was a sad moment in my Magic career. So he does reveal the top card, he flips his Delver, it is a counterspell. I always, I keep saying, I leave it open so that I can have this as like a reference point. I know he's got that counterspell, and I'm going to do my best to draw it out. I have the blink in graveyard and I want to use it, so I'm going to play the Rift Watcher and hope that he uses the counterspell, but he actually has an exclude. He has another counter. Um, and like I said, you know the counterspell is still out there. It's always important to have that knowledge, and more knowledge the better in these games. It's honestly true. So my opponent's sitting pretty good. I'm going to end up taking 6 because I have no flyers here. I do have, like I said a million times now, the option to blink Missionary, go up some life. I have the option to blink the Oracle to try and draw some cards. At this point in time, I will do that. It's almost more important for me to draw or go up in life. But unfortunately, he does have another Dispel, so that does not happen. Thankfully, I top deck into another Missionary. And I'm surprised he did not bring out the counterspell. You see, I have kept track. The counterspell is still there. I'm thinking that when I use it, he's going to counter it. He has the mana open, but he did not use it. And maybe he thinks I have something great in my hand here. I like to hold on to land sometimes in these games just to kind of bluff my way at what I may or may not be able to do for my opponent, or in contrast to my opponent. So now I have the Missionaries. They're going to be able to attack through. If he decides to block with the bear, I'm willing to trade one of those. My blink is already gone, so it's not going to be a huge loss if he does decide to trade. If he doesn't, it's getting some damage through, and that's an important thing. So here comes the probe. Now he knows that I have these 2 lands in hand and that I was bluffing. So I'm able to just kind of take the damage. At this point in time, since he knows what you have in your hand, you might as well just play the lands. There's not really much you're going to be able to save from it. Here's kind of where I'm making a comeback. He still has the counterspells in hand. I do cast the Muldrifter, hoping to draw it out, and he doesn't. So now I'm hoping I have the 1 black available that I can make some play here. Now because I have the 1 black available, I have the negate. I could have played the Evolving Wilds and had mana to use negate as well as Echoing Decay. I did play a Plains just in case there was a Force Spike somewhere in there that I did not comprehend. If you were to dispel this and then have mana open for Force Spike, that would have been trouble. But so I cast Echoing Decay, trying to draw out that counterspell, and I will get it, and I can use negate to stop it and kill the Delver. This is going to be kind of my comeback here, because I will be able to only take 3 damage from his attack. I'm going to actually jump block with the Muldrifter and just kind of wait for time. If we can get this moving here. Oh yeah, that's right. He actually Vapor Snags the Muldrifter, so I had an option, but he did kill it. And here's, I think, another pretty good move I made here. Just bring the graveyard up here for us to look at. So there's nothing really in here currently. I am able to evoke the Muldrifter. Now, he didn't realize this until afterwards, and again, I should have extended this for chat, but he thought I just actually fully cast Muldrifter. Just kind of an oversight. So what I'm going to be able to do is, I thought I would draw out a counterspell, and I didn't. So he thinks I've made a mistake now because the Muldrifter is dying. But what I'm really doing in drawing this and paying that is I'm leaving myself 7 mana open and available, as well as I have another one in hand. So now I've got options. I can sit here, I cast the Deep Analysis. Again, I have mana open to stop Force Spike, though this time it doesn't draw me anything, and I'm still trying to draw out a counterspell from him. And like I said, I know he has 3 cards in hand. There has to be at least 1 counterspell there. So this is what I'm going to do. What I want to do is Doomblade this Drake, but I know that I'm not going to be able to. So I have the mana open. My other play would be to use Grim Harvest and return the Missionary. So I'm targeting the Missionary with my Grim Harvest. Now him, as my opponent, he sees this and doesn't want that to happen. If he can counter this and stop the Missionary from coming out, then I don't go up 4 life. I cannot survive his next attack. So this kind of forces him into using this counterspell. And in response to that, this is kind of make it or break it. I played the Doomblade. If he has another counter, it's game over. If he doesn't, this is just turned to my favor. So I did. I cleared the board out here, and I'm able to swing for 3 and get through. Now my opponent had to concede the match. He, I don't know, something came up and he said he had to go. But let's just take a look at what I had here. I had the Deep Analysis left, but I could not draw anything because I'm down to 2 life. My opponent's at 9, only 2 cards in his hand. I'm actually sitting pretty well because I've used up most of my mana base. I'll be able to search out another basic with this, and my next 2 draws were actually a Skyfisher and a Muldrifter. So I've eaten up a lot of his counterspells. I think I would have been pretty good off to, or at least in a pretty good place to win this second game. God only knows what would happen in the third, but my opponent did have to go, and so I'll apologize to you guys that it's only these 2 games, but I just thought this was a good example of some ways that you can kind of get an advantage and if you pay attention to the counter spells and play it as a chess match, anticipating your opponent's plays. You saw there, like I said, Grim Harvest would have been a win play, and he thinks that he can stop that, he's got the win, and it's true. If I was bluffing and he can stop that, then he thinks that's what I'm gonna do. But really, I actually drew into the Doomblade and had the answer. Those came in sideboard, so he didn't see those up until this point. I didn't draw any others. He had really kind of no knowledge that those Doomblades were actually there. But so that's mono blue matchup. Like I said, it's not really a favorable one, but with some smart gameplay and you do have some options in the sideboard, it can turn in your favor.